Okay, welcome. Many of you may know my father-in-law, my late father-in-law, was Professor Emeritus of Speech and Drama at UP, and he said never start a speech with an apology. So this isn't an apology, it's a statement of fact. 16 minutes ago, Mahar stuck his head into my office and said, "Are you going to this event?" I said, "Sure, I'm going." He said, "Okay, you chair." So this is my buy-in. The Social Weather Stations provides me with an office and a very nice computer, and I guess I have to do his bidding as he tries to shift things to younger folks such as myself. Anyhow, but in general, I'm delighted. I do know the data to a certain degree, and I certainly know the presenter. Gene Benapil is from UP Poli-Sci and has been interested in a variety of things. He has already once given a lecture here on institutional design considerations on federalism, which was his rehearsal for what he did in front of the Senate about a week later. So if you want to see it, you can either watch it on Social Weather Stations or you can watch the Senate hearings. Either way, it's a beautiful illustration of whatever it is we're doing is the way not to do it. The whole point of these kinds of sessions connected to the General Assembly of the Social Weather Stations Fellows is that the whole point of Social Weather Stations is to undertake data analysis and gathering. The problem is for social weather stations that we're very busy gathering data and we don't have enough time to analyze data. I made sure with Gene, he's got 4 waves of data between 2002 and 2014. Do you have any idea how many surveys social weather stations did between 2002 and 2014? Probably in excess of 50. Right? And so the point is that it's a data collection and storage institution with data analysis capacity, but sometimes the analysis gets crowded out by the collection. So it's very good to have quasi-outsiders, such as G. He's not yet a fellow of the Asian Foundation, but the data are open to others, and we like to have other people do analysis. In particular, Guy Guerrero, the vice president, who's the main interlocutor with the Asian Barometer institutions, is interested in the Asian Barometer getting analyzed because the other institutions are all academics and they publish a lot of stuff from these data. And it'd be useful if the Philippines got a little more prominent in that. So she was very eager to persuade, arm twist, browbeat Gene into doing this. Maybe he'll tell us how really it was. Arm twisting. But part of what I'm sure Gene wants to do is to begin to get a discussion of these kinds of issues. These are all very hot issues around the world. What does democracy look before and after the election of what is undoubtedly a populist leader? Any other adjectives you might add to populist are somewhat controversial, but it's not controversial that Duterte is a populist leader. So what does that mean for democracy, and what does democracy mean before and after such a person? So I invite Gene to start giving us some ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth, and good afternoon to everyone here. I'll be standing up as I lecture. The title of my lecture this afternoon, co-presented with Iremae D, would be Democracy Before Duterte, Filipino Views on Democracy from 4 SWS surveys for the Asian Barometer in 2002-2014. First, some acknowledgements. Oops. It's cut. Perhaps I will be reading the whole slides. So First of all, thank you to everyone for attending today's SWS Research Forum. Second, I would like to thank Ms. May Labucay, my co-author, for the hard work of data tabulation for this presentation. She is one of the SWS experts on the Asian Barometer surveys. So that if later on you will have questions about methodology, ask her, not me. I'll wait for the adjustment in the slides. Perhaps I could sing first. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Leo. So again, she is May, who is one of the experts of SWS on the Asian Barometer surveys. So there are methodology questions later. Please ask her, not me. Introduction, what is the Asian Barometer? Probably one of the best write-up on what the Asian Barometer is could be read from the blurb, the introduction in the working paper series. The Asian Barometer is an applied research program on public opinion on political values, democracy, and governance around the region. The regional network encompasses research teams from 13 East Asian political systems and 5 South Asian countries. Together, this regional survey network covers virtually all major political systems in the region, systems that have experienced different trajectories of regime evolution and are currently at different stages of political transition. 4 waves have already been conducted. Wave 1 from 2001-2003, there were 8 countries. Wave 2, 2005 to 2008, involving 13 countries. Then Wave 3 from 2010-2012, still 13 countries. And then Wave 4, 2014-2016, 14 countries. And Wave 5 is ongoing. So the Wave 5 is currently ongoing. Then let me share to you the survey topics. The survey topics have increased from waves 1 to 4. Before there were only 14, now there are 25. Let's just go through the topics quickly. Okay. The topics are economic evaluations, trust in institutions, social capital, participation in elections, access to public service, 6, psychological involvement, 7, internet and social media, 8, partisanship, 9, traditionalism, 10, political participation, 11, regime preference, 12, meaning of democracy, 13, satisfaction with government and democracy. By the way, all this will be available from the Asian Barometer website. 14, most important problems, 15, quality of governance, 16, regime evaluation, 17, democratic legitimacy and preference for democracy, 18, citizenship empowerment and political support, 19, authoritarian versus democratic values, 20, globalization, 21, redistribution, 22, citizenship, 23, international relations, then 24 about the surveys asking socioeconomic background variables of the respondents and interview record. If they could imagine how massive the topics. And in fact, Wave 1 has 148 questions. Wave 2 has 167 questions. Wave 3 has 161. And Wave 4, the most recent, finished, 172 questions. SWS and the Asian Barometer. The one doing the research or the survey on the Philippines for Asian Barometer is no other than the social weather stations. In fact, one of the core partners of Asian Barometer is our very own, quite underneath D, Larry Diamond is Miss Linda Luz Guerrero, Vice President of Social Weather Stations, as one of the core partners of the survey. Dates of the Asia Barometer surveys on the Philippines. Wave 1 was from March 4 to 23, 2002. For those familiar with Philippine history, you already could probably guess the main events that happened then. Then sample sizes would be 1,200. All the surveys would have 1,200 respondents as sample size. Wave 2, November 25, December 5, 2005. Wave 3, March 3 to 7, 2010. So all three waves were conducted under Gloria Arroyo. Wave 4 would be the only survey under Lloyd Aquino from June 30 to July 5, 2014. And the first survey under Duterte will be done hopefully by October of this year. Also 1,200 respondents. What to present on the SWS Asian Barometer surveys related to democracy for this year's SWS Research Forum. When I was asked, as well as me, to come up with a topic for this research forum, we actually checked out what has already been done by the SWF on democracy topics involving the SWS Asian Barometer. And there have been a number. One of the first would be the one written by our former VP President, Pepe Abueva, and Ms. Linda Guerrero. One of the first working paper series, in fact, available on the website of the Asian Barometers. This would be what democracy means to Filipinos, basically on wave 1 of the survey, as well as Dr. Abueva includes, I think, 3 surveys of SWS on Filipino views of democracy, open-ended questions on how Filipinos understand democracy. Then this one is by Dr. Ms. Guerrero then, and Rolin Tusalem, entitled Mass Public Perceptions of Democratization in the Philippines. This tackles comprehensively wave 1 of the Philippines. And this is actually a book chapter in the book, in an important book, if I may add, How is Asians View Democracy, edited by Yunan Chu, Larry Diamond, Andrew Nathan, and Do Chu Shin. Then another work has been done. The title should be clear. What have we learned from 4 waves of ABS? Presented in Asian Barometer Conference and Planning Meeting by, again, Ms. Guerrero and a young scholar here in SWS, Ms. Sheena Sabio. I could not see her now. There's a subsection there on Philippine democracy, or how Filipinos see democracy. And then the last, the one presented by SWS in the most recent International Political Science Association, World Congress of Political Science in Brisbane, Australia. So it focuses on a topic, democracy and the link to corruption. Democracy and corruption in Southeast Asia, cross-cultural analysis using Asian Barometer surveys. Okay, so we settled first on a general topic, as you can see. And this is the topic is general. But then we settled down to a more particular emphasis of having a lecture with specific aims. There are 3 main aims of this presentation. The first is to present the rationale of some of the key survey questions on democracy of the Asian Barometer as explained by one of its principal directors. that would be the Taiwanese scholar Yun Han Chu. Then introduce new concepts and techniques from another major Asian. Introduce new concepts and techniques from another Asian Barometer scholar. In fact, another major Asian Barometer scholar, Dochu Shin, that may increase the critical insights drawn from the Asian Barometer survey questions on democracy, and apply some of these insights on the Philippine survey results using just a total of 10 SWS Asian Barometer charts out of the 176, and out of the probably something like 20 direct questions on democracy. Okay, so body of presentation. We start with the working paper of Yun Han Chu et al. Okay, in the working paper series number 120. That's Yun Han Chu, okay, on the website, Distinguished Research Fellow, okay, of the Institute of Political Science, a fellow political scientist. They have a discussion on measuring support for democracy and detachment from authoritarianism. We do first support for democracy, then later detachment from authoritarianism. So we take this out. We center first on support for democracy. Okay. And according to Yun Han Chu, they have designed the questions on support for democracy, direct support for democracy they're trying to measure. The first one would be instrumental support. And they define this as, quote, support for a democratic regime based on the delivery of certain desirable goods. And two questions are asked in the Asian Barometer section on democracy. And we will discuss both. So the first one is satisfaction with the way democracy works in a country, and the dates would be March 2002 to July 2004, covering the 4 surveys, or the 4 waves as they were conducted in the country. The question is, in Filipinos, sa kabuuan, gaano po kayo nasisiyahan o hindi nasisiyahan sa takbo ng demokrasya dito sa Pilipinas? Kayo ay show card, then the English translation, on the whole, how satisfied or dissatisfied are you with the way democracy works in the Philippines? Are you lubos na nasisiyahan, very satisfied, medyo nasisiyahan, very satisfied, medyo hindi nasisiyahan, not very satisfied, and lubos na hindi nasisiyahan, not all satisfied? And these are the questions, okay, in question 98 in wave 1, 93 wave 2, 89 wave 3, and 92 in wave 4. So let us now go to the chart, and let us assemble our chart. Okay, so 2002 would be wave 1, 2005 wave 2, then a larger period, 2010, and 2014. By the way, the lecture will be available, okay, in PDF and available online. So I'll ask Mr. De Rosa to post that, okay, on the website. Then the president for the 3 waves would be no other than GMA. Then that marker, okay, separates Arroyo from the next president, Benigno Aquino. Although it's 2010, please remember the survey was done in March 2010, so the president was still GMA. Okay, so the dark green color represents very satisfied, and then the light green would be fairly satisfied. For 2002, you have 8% very satisfied Filipinos, and then 45% fairly satisfied, for a total of 53%. In 2005, okay, 5 very satisfied, then 32 fairly satisfied, for a total of 37. Then in 2010, 8 very satisfied, then 40 fairly satisfied. Total 48. Then the last 9 fairly satisfied, and then 51. 59 very satisfied, 51 fairly satisfied, for a total of 60. So that's our first chart. Chart 2, okay, again we're doing the instrumental part. Democracy is capable of solving the problems of our society, same period. Okay. The question is, alin sa mga sumusunod na pangungusap ang mas malapit sa inyong opinion? Okay, so which of the following statement comes closer to your own view? Ang demokrasya ay may kakayahang mas solusyonan ang mga problema ng ating lipunan. Democracy is capable of solving the problems of our society. Okay. Hindi kayang masolusyonan ng demokrasya ang mga problema ng ating lipunan. Democracy cannot solve our society's problems. And these questions can be found in the following section of the questionnaire. So we go to chart 2, democracy, okay, chart 2, and the dark blue, I think it's aqua green, democracy is capable of solving the problems of our society. 2002, 61% of Filipinos said that democracy can. 2005, 56, 2010, 55, 2014, 64%. And that wraps up the discussion on the instrumental part of the surveys on democracy. According to Yun and Chu et al., the next group would be composed of intrinsic or normative support, or during that in that article, they call the genuine commitment. They define this kind of support as support for democracy as an end in itself. Okay. 6 questions are asked in the survey. We will discuss 2 of the most important. And both are on the preferability of democracy over other regimes. Okay. So we discuss both. And there are only 2 questions on preferability. So chart 3, democracy may have its problems, but it is still the best form of government. Question, kayo po ba ay sumasang-ayon o hindi sumasang-ayon sa sumusunod na pangungusap? Kayo po ba ay, ang demokrasya ay maaaring may mga problema, ngunit ito pa rin ang pinakamagandang uri ng gobyerno? Okay, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Democracy may have its problems, but it is still the best form of government. Kayo po ba ay lubos na sumasang-ayon? Strongly agree. Sumasang-ayon? Agree. Hindi sumasang-ayon? Lubos na hindi sumasang-ayon. Okay. This question actually started only in 2010. Okay. Started in wave 3 to wave 4. Q1 28 in wave 3 and Q1 29 in wave 4. Okay, so we have only 2010, 2014, then strongly agree 31%, agree 44%, for a total of 75%, agreeing that democracy is still the best form of government for the Philippines. 2014 under Illinois, 30%, strongly agree, and then 49 agree, for a total of 79%. We go chart 4, democracy is always preferable to any other kind of government. Alin sa mga sumusunod na pangungusap ang pinakamalapit sa inyong pananaw? Sugar? That's the English. Which of the following statements comes closest to your own opinion? Ang demokrasya ay palaging mas kanais-nais kaysa sa ibang uri ng pamahalaan. Democracy is always preferable to any other kind of government. Sa ilang mga sitwasyon, ang pamahalaang diktatorya ay mas kanais-nais kaysa sa isang demokratiko. Under some circumstances, an authoritarian government can be preferable. to a democratic one. And the last, para sa mga taong katulad ko, hindi mahalaga sa akin kung ating pamahalaan ay demokratiko o hindi demokratiko. For people like me, it does not matter whether we have a democratic or a non-democratic regime. And these questions appeared in all four ways. For the political scientists here, these are the questions formulated by the great Spanish-American political scientist Juan Linz in the 1970s. And in fact, we call people who respond positive to the first question as unconditional democrats. The second one, conditional authoritarians. And the third one, indifference. So this would be the chart. Okay, so blue always prefer democracy. Red sometimes prefer authoritarianism. And for those who paint, if you combine blue and red, you get the color purple. That does not matter, the indifference. Okay, so let us track down. In 2002, 64% are the unconditional democrats. Then it goes down to 2005, only half, 80%. Then in 2010, 54%. Then it again goes down to 47% under Noynoy Aquino. How about the conditional authoritarians? So it starts with 18%, then is maintained to 18% in 2005, goes a little bit higher to 22%, and then even higher under Noynoy at 27%. So we track down now the indifference. Indifference start also at 18% in 2002, then higher, 24% in 2005, goes down a little bit to 22, and then under Noynoy, it is 25. Then we now go to the detachment from authoritarianism. Before we discuss detachment from authoritarianism, let us discuss what, for the designers of the Asian Barometer surveys, CIA's limitation of measuring support for democracy. That's why they introduced this detachment from authoritarianism. So according to Yunhan Chu et al., even using the intrinsic or normative questions, the preferability questions, responses may still be affected by the social desirability bias for democracy, as people favor the term democracy, and different understanding of what democracy means. So the advantage of detachment from authoritarianism question, it is a battery of questions, 4 of them, asking respondents whether they accept 4 specific alternatives to democracy without using the word democracy. According to Yunhan Chu et al., the advantage of this measure is that it allows the probe of the strength of respondent support for democracy in practice, while avoiding the potential social desirability bias arising from the use of the D word, which is democracy. So 4 questions are asked under the. If you've been reading papers written by Asian Barometer scholars, you would encounter that abbreviation DA. That's not the nickname of Linda. That's the detachment from authoritarianism. And good that we work on all 4 questions this afternoon. So chart 5, we should get rid of parliament. This would be the first topic. Get rid of parliament and elections and have a strong leader to decide things. This is the strong leader question. So this in Filipino. Maraming mga paraan upang pamahalaan ang isang bansa. masasabi po ba ninyo na kayo ay sang-ayon o hindi sang-ayon sa mga sumusunod na alternatibo? Sa bawat pangungusap, pakisabi lamang po kung kayo ay lubos na sumasang-ayon, sumasang-ayon, hindi sumasang-ayon, o lubos na hindi sumasang-ayon. And then you show card. In English, there are many ways to govern a country. Would you disapprove or approve of the following alternatives? For each statement, would you say you strongly approve, approve, disapprove, or strongly disapprove? Dapat nating tanggalin ang parlamentaryo o kongreso at eleksyon at magkaroon ng isang malakas na leader na magpapasya sa mga bagay-bagay. In English, we should get rid of parliament and elections and have a strong leader to decide things. The questions are consistent from waves 1 to wave 4. Okay? The question has been asked. Okay? So we could use waves 1 to 4. Strongly approved would be red, brown would be approved. These are negative values. Don't want to see them in your democracy. So in 2002, 9% strongly approved that we cancel election, abolish our parliament, and have a strong leader. Then 21% approved for a total of 30%. In 2005, okay, this would be after the turmoil, okay, of the elections of Gloria Roy, 16% strongly approved, then 21 approved to, okay, have a strong one. Okay, and for a grand total of 37. In 2010, 11 strongly approved, 24 approved for a total of 35. What's the story under Aquino? 2014, 10%. Then 23% approved, 33%. You might have noticed it's consistent, okay, more or less. You have this kind of constituency for a strong one. Chart 6. This one, only one political party should be allowed to stand for election and hold office. Okay, so it's a battery of questions, same questions are asked. Okay, so the only thing new is that in Filipino, isang partido political lamang ang dapat payagan na kumandidato at mahalal. Okay, so one party thing. Only one political party is allowed to stand for election and hold office with the qualification that in wave 1, the boarding in 2002, no opposition party, okay, the opposition party is specifically targeted, should be allowed to compete for power. And consistent from waves 1 to 4. So what's the story when it comes to what's the story when you have only one party state? So 2002, 9% strongly approved, and 21% approved, 30% total. 2005, 12% strongly approved for a one-party democracy, then 20% approved for a total of 32. In 2010, 11 strongly approved, 21 approved, 32% for a total of 32%. Would it be a different story for Noynoy? 8% strongly approved, 21% approved, 29% total. Also, more or less consistent. Now the third question is about the role of the military. The army, military, should come in to govern the country. Okay, so same question, lead question. Ang militar ay dapat pumasok upang pamunuan ang bansa. The army or military should come in to govern the country. Again, all ways are included. Okay. So, 2002, 12% strongly approved that we have a military regime. 25% approved for a total of 37%. Well over, I think, 1/3 of the population. 2005, 8 strongly approved, then 16 approved. So I think a significant drop at 24%. In 2010, 8%, then 16%, same figure, total of 24. What's the story again with Nonoy? 8 also for strongly approved, but interestingly, an increase, a slight increase of 20% for a total of 28 in terms of a military regime. And then the last, we should get rid of elections and parliaments and have a technocracy. This is a technocracy question, a government of experts. Make decisions on behalf of the people. So same lead question. And then the question, specific question, kailangan nang mawala ang eleksyon at parlamentaryo o kongreso at magkaroon na lamang ng mga ekspertong magdedesisyon para sa mga tao. We should get rid of elections and parliaments and have experts make decisions on behalf of the people. Okay. Again, all questions. Oh, this one is not included. Wave 2. Okay. This question does not appear in wave 2. Okay. So our chart only has 2002. 2005 does not have this question. Then 2010, 2014. 2002, 7, strongly approved, and then 16 approved, for a total of 23. 2010, 5, not that popular, this technocracy, compared to the other authoritarian alternatives. 5 strongly approved, 12, total 17. And in 2014, under Noynoy, slightly lower at 4%. In fact, the 4 wouldn't fit anymore to the number. And then 14, slightly higher in terms of approved, and 18% total. 1/5 of the population, okay, more or less. Okay, so we now go to another work by another major Asian Barometer scholar. And this is the American South Korean scholar, Do Chu Shin, in a work that he co-wrote with a graduate student, Hannah June Kim. The title of the paper, "Do People in Asia Truly Prefer Democracy to Its Alternatives?" One of the required readings in my democratization class this semester. Okay, this is the photo of Do Chu Shin, and I understand, okay, I checked him out, his CV. He is a co-founder of the Asian Barometer project. And has written a number of working papers for the Asian Barometer. And very prolific scholar. Works appear in a number of journals, different journals, major journals. Okay. In this work, he argues for a stronger relation between support for democracy and detachment from authoritarianism. Okay, stronger than what Yun Han Chu et al. Are pushing for. Okay. And he does this through the concept of avowed Democrats. Okay. The concept of avowed Democrats, okay, are those who proclaim democracy as the best or always preferable. These are the ones we discussed earlier in terms of normative, the preferability of the democratic regime. But it separates these avowed Democrats between authentic Democrats, meaning that they not only embrace the principles and practices of democracy, but consistently reject those of its alternatives. Okay, so authentic Democrats. And then the concept of superficial Democrats, or another term, spurious Democrats. Who are they? They're the ones who proclaim democracy as the best or always preferable in the survey, but at the same time, prefer non-democratic alternatives. Shin and Kim actually offer complex subtypes, which need not concern us here. Okay? Really complex typology that probably would take a whole semester to discuss. Okay. According to Shin and Kim, its proportion, okay, the proportion of superficial Democrats, its proportion is chosen as a measure of quote-unquote democratic preferential inflation. the concept of DPI, democratic preferential inflation. And this is brought about by any effort to tap preferences for democracy, overtly with the questions containing the word democracy is bound to inflate its preferences. And in the work of Shin, he actually shares this chart wherein, I think it's a World Value Survey, wherein it's almost a global acceptance of the desirability of democracy, okay, and very, very high percentage. So, but at the same time, as he discusses in the paper, okay, once you start asking them about authoritarian alternatives, these very same people embrace those authoritarian alternatives. Okay, so let's do chart 9, we'll do 2. Okay, chart 9, let's do the unconditional Democrats. Unconditional Democrats, okay, as I said, very popular and powerful concept in democratization literature. In fact, Larry Diamond lists the measure of unconditional Democrats as an indicator of democratic consolidation in the public. And it's the only one I know that actually comes up with a quantitative measure, 2/3 of the population, or 70%. Okay, so unconditional Democrats is a treasured concept in democratization. Let's do unconditional Democrats, but then let's measure also the unconditional Democrats who agree, okay, or who approve or strongly approve that we should get rid of parliament and elections and have a strong leader decide things. Okay, so these are your, okay, this is your intrinsic section. Okay, and that's our chart. Okay, and 7% of our unconditional Democrats in this country strongly approve that we have a strong leader. We abolish parliament and abolish elections. Also, okay, 18% approve of that argument, for a total of 25%. This means that 25% of your unconditional Democrats are problematic Democrats. Okay? If we follow Shin, they are spurious, superficial Democrats. In 2005, 14% strongly approved, and then 19% approved for 33%, even higher, almost 1/3. About in 2010, 12 strongly approved, and 19 approved, for a total of 31. Then in 2014, under Noynoy, smaller, okay, fewer, okay, smaller figure, 5%, then 20%, okay, for a total of 25. Okay? I'm not good at math, but more or less 1/4, I guess, of your unconditional Democrats, okay, the treasured unconditional Democrats are, okay, close-set, okay, authoritarians, okay, or spurious Democrats, if we follow Dochu Shin. This is not really Dochu Shin, okay, because Dochu Shin only does intrinsic. Okay, but I'm so tempted to apply this to an instrumental section. That would be interesting once we go to President Duterte, okay, which is our last chart. How about those who are very satisfied with democracy? If we check out whether those who are satisfied with our democracy right now are actually willing to end it by actually getting rid of parliament and elections and having a strong man. Okay, so this is instrumental. This is no longer Shin, but we're stretching his work. Okay, and this is now, okay, 2002, 2004. Bars with green frame, okay, are very satisfied with democracy. Those without, fairly satisfied. Red would be strongly approved, and orange approved. So, what's the story? In 2002, of those who are very satisfied with democracy, 10%, okay, strongly approve that we have a strong man at the same time. Okay. Then 23%, okay, fairly satisfied, okay, in this context, very satisfied, approve that we have a strong man, okay, for a total of 33%. Okay. How about those simply, okay, fairly satisfied with democracy? Okay. 8%, okay, strongly approve that we have a strong man, and 24% approve that we have a strong man, okay, for a total of 32%. In 2005, okay, after the problematic elections of Gloria Arroyo, okay, what's the story? For those very satisfied, those who strongly approve that we have a strong man, okay, almost doubles, okay, at 19%. Okay. And okay, although with the approved, it becomes actually smaller at 19, for a total of 38. Then for those who are simply fairly satisfied, 16%. Those who are okay, fairly satisfied and approved, 24%, for a total of 40%. Okay. So in this context, those fairly satisfied, 40% of them, okay, are actually, okay, strongly approve or approve that we have a strong man. In 2010, 19%, okay, strongly approve, and 23% strongly approve among the very satisfied with our democracy, for a total of 42%. That's close to half. Then 9%, okay, strongly approved for those fairly satisfied with democracy. And then 26%, okay, 35%. Okay? They're satisfied with democracy, but it doesn't matter if, okay, it is ended. In 2014, under Noynoy, you would have 14%, okay, from those very satisfied, strongly approving that we have a strong man, and then 17%, okay, this context, a total of 31. And the last, for those who are fairly satisfied with democracy, 9% strongly approved that we have a strong man, and then 25%, okay, approved, for a total of 34. This would be very interesting if we actually look at the current state of satisfaction in democracy that SWS actually does, okay, almost on a quarterly basis. Because my students in my democratization class are actually shocked when I tell them that the record satisfaction rating, okay, of democracy in this country is under Duterte. It's under the current president at 86%. Okay. Same. Okay. And if you notice the Duterte story, okay, you have the highest satisfaction of democracy. One thought it was already impressive under Noynoy when he got 80% in 2013. But under Duterte, okay, subjective assessment satisfaction, sky high, okay, 86%. That's impressive even for a scoring a test exam for my students. Okay, at 86 points. Okay. This is very interesting. Okay, I return first here. Considering that in terms of our democracy score right now, under Freedom House we have lost 3 points. Our rule of law we have lost 17 points. Human Rights Watch consider us actually as a human rights emergency. All objective indicators are scored under The Economist Intelligence Unit on Democracy. We have gone down significantly. And if you do the readings on democratization, I have assigned to my class the Philippines under Duterte is always mentioned there. Okay, but look, satisfaction with democracy at an all-time high under, okay, the current president. Then sometimes prefer authoritarianism. Your conditional authoritarians. Okay, quite impressive performance also under the current administration. While the satisfaction rating as SWS has been doing that since the time of Cory Aquino, the authoritarian democratic, the preferability, only started in 2002. But there's now, okay, 16 years, okay, a wealth of 16 years of that. Okay, impressive. And okay, it's also something that, okay, it's impressive, the Philippine satisfaction with democracy, if you compare it with European Union and Latin America. Since the time of Noynoy, we have gone up dramatically. EU, actually, okay, is not really gone up. In fact, it's actually an optimistic reading. Okay? If you're going to read Fo and Mook, okay, World Value Survey, it's actually a little lower than Latin America, but the Philippines, okay, defies a trend and goes up. Okay? If one is familiar with Carlos Dochoshi, something is happening, something else is happening. Okay? And I invite people to actually investigate what's causing the satisfaction with democracy. Okay, so thank you.
Yes, we have time for just you have question, just raise your hand, we get knowledge, and then use the mic. Yes, Dennis. You can just talk.
I'm Dennis Arroyo, fellow SWS here. Okay, thanks. On the acceptance of authoritarianism, how do we compare with Asia, the rest of Asia? That's one. How about class differences? Class A, B, C, D, and very poor E. And what's how does inequality figure out all this with the preference for authoritarianism? Do extremes in wealth generate that? Do crazy rich Asians create crazy fascist Asians? Okay, so those things, no? Where do we stand in Asia? Second, class differences. Third, inequality. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, Dr. Arroyo. I know that I have my baon. One of the reasons I chose those charts is that UNANCHO actually does a comparative study of, I think, of the 13 countries. And do that I have that question, the work, okay? The ones where the 8 charts that we worked on this afternoon, UNANCHO also worked on. And I have my baon. I always tell my students come prepared, so I could share the slides. For your question on disaggregation, really interesting. We actually wanted to do that, but we lacked the time of actually breaking down where they are, how the Philippines, okay, in terms of A, B, C, D, E, in terms of you said class inequality, or even in terms of areas like NCR, Balance of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. That would have been fascinating, okay, to do. But I leave it to the other fellows to do that. Okay? That's one area. But let me compare the UNANCHO. Because there are two ways to appreciate what we are doing, or what the charts are doing. One is, of course, to compare the performance of Aquino and Arroyo, okay, or parts of Arroyo 2002, 2005, 2010, and 2014. That's one. The other is comparative. And that's the advantage of the Asian Barometer, because all 18 countries have standardized questions. Okay, so let me share my baon on UNANCHO. This will be the first one, satisfaction with the way democracy works in a country. I haven't counted the number of countries, but we do it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. I think 12. And in terms of satisfaction with the way democracy works in a country, actually the Philippines is lower, the low scores, compared to, interestingly, Singapore, which for scholars is not a democracy, and then Cambodia, and then Thailand. They went 14 after the coup that happened there. That's why some scholars would immediately say something's wrong with the satisfaction rating, or not not that the survey is wrong, but people have a different understanding of what democracy is because they're satisfied with a regime that does not exist, like Singapore. Okay, and then, of course, the suspicion is economic performance has something to do with this. Governance indicators rather than democracy, which is a different political value. And so, how do we compare? You see the Philippines there. We're actually at the middle range, I would suppose, in terms of satisfaction. Actually, on the lower ones. So this would be the satisfaction with the way democracy works in a country. Then the second, democracy is capable of solving problems of their society. We are actually less confident than others in the capacity of our democracy to solve our problems. And Ninoy Aquino administrations did not change that dramatically. This actually rates the strength of a comparative approach of the Asian Barometer. Then figure 4, this is the intrinsic part. Democracy may have its problems, but still the best form of government. The Philippines is 77, 80. Look at Indonesia, which is a democracy. It's higher. Japan, liberal democracy. Then Cambodia, okay, where you have an authoritarian leader, a repressive authoritarian leader, doing at 94 and 91. That's why the democratic preferential inflation that Do Chul-shin is complaining about. You ask them a D word, they like it, delectable or something, okay, delicious or something. It becomes a positive thing, a positive connotation. Democracy is always preferable. Okay? The gold standard of democratization literature for a long time, the unconditional democrats. If you look at the Philippines, then Thailand, okay? Which actually favored a coup. Although we're in the fourth wave. Okay? Malaysia. High, democracy is always preferable, and Freedom House does not qualify Malaysia as a democracy. Myanmar, 72%. Cambodia, 70%. Preference for democracy versus authoritarianism. I think this involves two ways. Ways 3 and ways 4. You can see the Philippines there. Malaysia doing much better, okay, at least in terms of the scores. Thailand, Cambodia. Okay. Very interesting. In terms of a strong, rather sad that the Philippines is actually quite high, but not as high as Mongolia or Myanmar. But I think the Philippines would be number 5 or number 4. On average, for the 4 waves. Singapore has a lower score. Indonesia lower. Hong Kong lower. And ironically, we have Katihan speaker on Hong Kong scholar in public opinion. He was the one that explained that Hong Kong is not a democracy, but here, many Hong Kongers actually see their government in terms of democratic lens. Then in terms of one-party political one state, one-party political state, Philippines state also quite high. I think we're doing, once the DA comes in, we're one of the highest. When it comes to measuring satisfaction, we're high, but not as high as the others. But if you look at the DA, we're actually one of the highest. For one political party, Philippines, we're a performer, unfortunately. Then Philippines also, military, I think we're 4th or 5th, 4th or 5th. Then on technocracy, not that high. Probably we do not have historical experience on technocracy. Strong leader we have, the Marcoses. Then one party, KDL. military, more or less. Then you had an active military rebel, a challenge against the democratic government. Okay, the first government of the ex-republic, 86 to 92. That's my background for the election.
May, would you like to add? Dr. Ru? Would you like to add? Any more questions? Sir Ron?
Yeah, I think I'm like Leo. I don't know what to take away from the presentation, except that a third of us appear to be much more open to strongman rule and not necessarily democratic. So even as we say we want the democracy, we're not necessarily standing up for what it means. So I wonder to what extent the other countries have unpacked how people understand democracy, and how can we unpack it ourselves here in Asia? Are there differences? So I understand from the Economist articles, I read one really nice article that the democratic deconsolidation is in full swing in different regions, including in Latin America. So I wonder if they already began to unpack this issue of democracy, why people are tending towards strongman rule. And if that's how people understand democracy, then is it similar to our maybe weak understanding of democracy or lack of appreciation of what democracy really means? That's my first question. So that could be the more regional comparison that would, in my view, be interesting. The second is when you suggest, I mean, it just strikes me that the question is about a stronger leader, for instance. I can imagine a stronger leader sort of taking power under a democratic framework and having strong checks and balances. But the view of the people is that this leader is somehow stronger, more decisive, willing to confront, willing to use political capital to sort of face the issues, but still, subjected to the checks and balances of a democratic framework. So I wonder whether some of the questions need to be sharpened and may not necessarily evoke maybe anything close to military rule or something like this. In Asia, for instance, I've read literature where a strong leader like Lee Kuan Yew may still be subjected to checks and balances, but of a different type. The type where investors will leave Singapore if somehow he takes it in the wrong direction, but not necessarily from within his party. So then the checks and balances still exist, except in a different form.
Thank you for that question, Dean Mendoza. My co-author is preparing her own baon to answer that. But as she's preparing, let me answer two things. You're correct about the strong leader actually being possible in a democratic regime. Only that the questions of the DA identifies the strong leader in the context of abolition of elections and parliament. And in place of them, we'll have a strong leader. Then the second one you mentioned about Singapore, okay, being having a rule of law, okay, or having checks and balances. In the democratization literature, we call these types of regime competitive authoritarianism. But in rule of law, authoritarian regime can actually even have a better score. Some authoritarian regimes have better scores in terms of rule of law than democratic regimes. Okay? And ironically, this kind of hybrid type regimes is reflective of the hybrid personality of its own citizens. It actually would value some type of democracy, wherein democracy is understood by them as freedom or liberty and to a certain extent governance. But at the same time would want a stronger army, okay, or a strong arm tactic from their governments. As you see, we came prepared. I actually also have my own baon. I have a baon. Dr. Avoy must work on Dr. Abaybayan Linda's book on democracy. The problem with the meaning of democracy, with the Asian Barometer, I've been reading, weights 1 to 2, the question of meaning of democracy were open-ended. And for me, I'm more comfortable with that because of the complexity of the question or understanding of democracy. Come weights 3 and 4, it became different. And it will be made to explain.
Okay, so good afternoon. So in the fourth wave of the survey, the Asian Barometer survey asked 4 questions. I'm not sure if you can see this very clearly. So the respondents were asked, they were asked to choose one of the 4 definitions of democracy. So for each batch of question, they were asked to choose only one statement. So in these 4 questions, you can see that one statement corresponds to the measuring social democracy as a social equality, democracy as norms and procedures, good governance, and freedom and liberty. So we asked these 4 questions. And here are the results. So this table I got from the Asian Barometer survey. They analyzed cross-cultural findings. So you'll see that in Asia, most people would view democracy or understand democracy in terms, especially in Southeast Asia, as an outcome instead of the Western understanding of democracy as a set of rules and procedures and freedom and liberty. But especially for the Southeast Asians, they understand democracy in terms of good governance and social equity. So the Philippines is, okay, it's the second one. So the Philippines, we have 22% who understand democracy in terms of good governance, 30% in terms of social equity, only 21% in terms of norms and procedures, and 27% in terms of freedom and liberty. Singapore is around here.
Okay. First, I just noticed that, first of all, I would like to put it in context. We have indeed an experience of strongman. We have an experience of no election. And we have an experience, as you have said, of one-party rule. And practically all those DA, we have those experiences except the technocracy. So meaning to say, we are all familiar with the terminologies. And I'm surprised that I shall found out also that there is what we call a definite constituency for all those DAs except for the technocracy. And more or less, it is 1/3 of our population. 1/3 for those who opt for abolition of Congress, no parliament, no election. 1/3 of them also would prefer a strong leader. And 1/3 of them will also prefer one-party rule, something like that. So the first question that I will ask is that, do you add the numbers in these different scoreboards in order to be able to understand the phenomenal trust rating of Mr. Duterte? Because it is phenomenal 80%. So if you add those 30% who opt for, number one, DA, that means no Congress, no elections, strong rule. And you plus also for those people who opt for one party, and you choose within the one party almost a selection. And include if you eat one tip still remember the military rule, involvement of the military. So one third is 30%, and if you add also 1/5 of the military, or the support for the military interventions. And that perhaps, I don't know, if you add the number, will explain the phenomenal trust rating and to the present regime that indeed in the understanding and experiences of Filipino people will be strong because he dictates, he rules, he tells, and everybody agrees, including the military. I don't know, that is a question. Whether you add the number and that will lead to that explanation of the phenomenal trust rating of Mr. Duterte.
Thank you, sir, for that question. Since I understand your question as partly methodological and partly conceptual, I'll leave to my co-author first the methodological question, whether it can be done, then conceptually I'll come in later. And that will be very interesting.
Yeah, I think we can do, but we have yet to do some additional statistical tests or some factor analysis. But it's possible that we can get the percentages of those who agree in all those measures of democratic and authoritarian values.
I'll ask my co-author, it's my chance. Is it possible to come up with an authoritarian score with all this?
If I may comment, I don't think it's as simple as adding all those individually, because a respondent could agree to one question and at the same time disagree to the other. So it's not adding altogether one variable to the other. It's a matter of looking at the consistency of the responses across the variables. It may be a maximum of 30% because one person agreed to one, maybe because we had a maximum of 30% agreeing. So I think you would get a maximum of 30% agreeing to all four indicators. So I think that's the maximum that you can get in terms of the authoritarian. Now, also in relation to the ratings of the
questions.
Yes, but they are answered all by one person. So if 30% agrees to that, the maximum could also be 30% agreeing to all the questions. Now, in relation to the rating of the president, I think it could. Well, we could always check, but I would not guess right now.
Sir, about the non-methodological part, it has something to do also with the elections, the one that allowed Duterte as candidate to become as president, basically a plurality close to 35%. Although one has to explain the high trust rating and high satisfaction rating later on. And interestingly, the Barometer survey actually has more than questions just on democracy. It includes other questions, about 170. Some of them are actually Filipino views on authority, on how he sees authority of the father, etc., which may explain, the same way some scholars like Duterte explains the strength or the popularity of authoritarian leaders in certain quote-unquote Confucian societies. I guess when you were asking the question, it crossed my mind that the trust rating of Duterte, the winning candidate, was something like 40% before he became president. But when he became president, it was 80 plus something. And I don't have the exact figures. Okay, and I would tell my class what changed. Duterte did not change. Even his speaking did not change. His cursing did not change. What changed is that he now held the office. And Filipinos respect the office. And in context, it did.
May I offer an explanation? Because the impact of what he's doing has an impact on the lower classes. And maybe they perceive the difference in their community with the removal of the drug addicts in their community. This was my explanation why his satisfaction rating increased so much. Remember that our population in the samples are heavily towards the D, E, and B CDE. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, maybe those of us who were for MAR before, realized that we needed somebody like Duterte to solve our problems. Maybe.
So, I don't know, most probably this is my perception that actually those covered by the surveys are most probably belonging to class. No, no bias, but one of the things that very few people have phones, cell phones, something like that, especially the poor. That's why I'm saying that while it is cross-section, but most probably that catch is not what you are saying, the lowest class who feel that the really cross-section, that all cross-sections from the Filipino people, we have that resolved in that survey. That is my perspective. I'm not criticizing it, but simply say that all classes are there. So we cannot simply say that this is coming from the poorer section.
No, I'm saying the impact of what he's doing.
Okay.
The impact of what he's doing in terms of removing from the squatter areas the drug addicts and stuff like that might have convinced other people like me. I said, ay, hindi to kaya ni Mar. Hindi to kaya ni Mar Rojas. He is too polite. He is too much of a gentleman to do something like this. And that's the reason why I said, buti na lang hindi siya yung nanalo. You know, because our problems are so bad that I was just convinced that he was the guy for the moment.
The last also, on the military thing, I noticed also the support for martial law, except for Manila and in the Visayas. Like somebody in Mindanao, the phenomenal support for martial law. And then I saw 1/5 of the population nationwide actually support military, at least some of the military interventions. That is still very much alive to the consciousness of the Filipino people, the military participation. Notwithstanding the whole EDSA revolution and something like that, that there is that that's actually residual, but majority say, for example, in Mindanao, people martial law, something like that. So, I don't know, that's why the thing, I'm trying to understand this anyway.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Yeah, Pia first.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Pia from Rapper. I just want to distill the implication of some of the charts. For example, chart 4, there was a drop 64 to 47 in terms of democracy being the preferred mode of government. Is it safe to say then that right before Duterte was elected, there was a disillusionment with democracy?
I'm sorry, I did not get you. From what?
Based on the chart 4 po.
Chart.
Democracy is always preferable to any other kind of government. From Arroyo time, 64% agreed with this, and then come Aquino time, only 47 agreed. I'm talking about the Asian Barometer. Yeah, charts. Chart 4. Yeah, that one. Because there's also the red line that shows preference for authoritarianism rose from Arroyo time to Aquino time. So I'm just asking, does that mean that we can say that people grew disillusion with democracy right before Duterte was elected? Somewhat.
Yes, somewhat.
But it's the small partial, right? That's not disillusionment.
What would you call it then?
Just in that point, first a little decline, but that's not disillusionment. That's exaggerated.
Okay, so it's just a decline in support for...
Before 57. Go back to our long time series. That's the important one. Our long time series. That, to me, this is what matters. It's a very long time series. Can I use the microphone?
Go ahead, Mark.
Can I switch the microphone, please?
Okay, let's make a comment. Look, this we've been doing for a long time, right? What has always struck me about this green line, satisfaction with how democracy works, is how it peaks with elections. You know, look at Ramos, right? Under Cory, it was below 50, and then 1992, Ramos won 70, high peak. All right, that's the election effect. People are glad that election works, right? But then, yeah, I'm glad they have a democracy, because what's the meaning of democracy? You have an election and it works. You choose a leader, right? But then came back down again to mga 50. All right. Now, 1998, Estrada won. It's back again there, you know, that peak. You see that? Back to 70%. That's the proof that democracy works. That it's supposed to be, you know, every 6 years, you find out, huh? And you say you can choose again. Ayun, nangyari. Now, unfortunately, you had the downfall of Estrada. You see, that was apparently proof that, my gosh, we elected somebody and then he failed us. He was involved in weddings and so forth. No? Even if we chose somebody properly, he did not do well for us. Okay, so things got bad like that. And then when Arroyo did her 2004, it was so flawed, you know. Garcia and so forth. I said, what kind of election is this? We are not being allowed to choose our real leader. That was the most contentious election of the world. This is the FPJ versus Gloria cheating and so on. So actually, the whole Arroyo period is a very fumbling period with all the indicators of governance. Right. Then everything was recovered with Noynoy, back again to 70. You see, the 2004, nothing happened there. No honeymoon. No honeymoon. So there we are again in 2010. And actually all the governance indicators under Noynoy are good. No? A big recovery from the Arroyo time. The Arroyo time is a big disappointment time. 9 years and so disappointing. Now, when you come to the 2016 election, then you had that peak again, right? But, you know, from 70 to that 86, well, that's, you know, a nice peak. And he's a very different kind of a leader. Huh? And so people are saying, oh, under our democracy, pwedeng taga Mindanao for a change. Right? That's how I look at that. Pwedeng taga Mindanao. Okay yun. Right? But actually, the ratings of Duterte, I will say, are not really much higher than Noynoy. Not really. And give him time, because Noynoy's honeymoon was 3.5 years. We're only talking about 2 years now. So give it time. Give it time. It's high compared to the ones in the past, but Noynoy's were also very high compared to Gloria. So I don't buy this thing about Duterte is superior to Noynoy. Maybe from the beginning, but how about in the long run? Let's wait and see. Now, to me, the important items here is not the green. That's more like, how does your government work? And besides the not only the election, but in the meantime, how is the government working? You know, for the issue of democracy, the red line, sometimes I prefer authoritarianism. That's very kind, you know, that's a very easy to understand. That's a soft question which gives a chance for any kind of authoritarian to say yes, sometimes. Huh? Sometimes. It's so passive, it's so, you might say, it's such a soft question that if you have the least idea to like it, you should answer yes. And yet, it has never reached 30%, except once, over there. So, this is, this comparison between the blue and the red is what we always use in order to warn against having a military coup when the green line goes down. The ones who use this, who put those together, are actually the ones in Latin America. Because they always say, the government isn't working, dapat mag-military coup. But we will say, no, the government isn't working well because you never have the red line above the blue line. And those are alternatives, alternative answers. The blue always dominates the red fantastically. Those are two answers, two alternative answers to the same question. So those are the same, those are really opposing each other. The green is on the side. The green is not one of the answers. The green is something happening at the same time. It spurs up after the national elections in particular. And sometimes it spurs up in the midterm elections, like the midterm election of Noynoy Aquino over there. The 2013. There's a little peak also there in the 2013. But if you're asking of democracy versus authoritarianism, you compare the blue and the red. And there's no contest. Even giving that the red is a very soft question. I say there's no contest. There's no way to say that Filipinos prefer authoritarianism, given these particular lines. And that's not just 4 surveys. That's quarterly since 1992.
Just 2 short answers to Pia. On chart 3, the margin of error for the Asia Barometer is plus minus 3. So basically, the 22-27 would be well within the margin of errors. And then second, surveys only measure opinion. Causes are not mentioned. So anything that I would be saying would be speculative. The same way, why is Duterte satisfaction with democracy? Are people so happy now with democracy? That's why they're satisfied. I could do an analysis, but it's not going to be supported by the data that I have.
But we want your speculation. We want to understand. We want to understand also why Singapore thinks that they have a democracy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have good times.
Because they have good times. There is no oppression, there is no. But they don't have a democracy.
They don't have economic oppression.
They don't have oppression. That's
Economic oppression.
not in chewing gum. Yeah, when you're chewing gum, you have oppression.
Okay, one last question. Dahil kung wala na,
Thank you very much.
yes, let's thank
Thank you very much.
May, Dr. Luke,